like, I think it was maybe a week before Christmas or something like that. Literally, and then the season ends. The Bills don't go to the playoffs that year. At least I don't think they did in 96. We did in 97. So from the workout, exactly 1 month later, A.J. Smith calls me up and he says, we want to offer you a two-year contract. So it went from, we were going to endorse you to try to get to NFL Europe to giving me a 2-year contract.
That's everything you worked for.
Yeah, so I immediately, now you get the contract, but that's only one part of it, right? Because you still got to make the team.
Okay, so it's like the Monarchs for guys. Not the Monarchs, but were they the Alouettes or whatever?
Yeah. Well, any professional team, you're going to get a contract, and you still have to make the team.
Okay.
And that's what confuses, I think, the general public. So, and you can ask me questions as we get into it.
I got a contract. What are you talking about?
But I immediately moved to Buffalo.
Okay.
I'll never forget. So I lived in Hamburg, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo that borders Orchard Park, where the stadium is, and it's literally right there. And I lived in.
Did you start getting paid with that contract?
So no. So I had a 1-bedroom apartment. It was $400 a month. The NFL, if you stay at your home city,
right,
the NFL pays you to work out. So I was up there, the strength coach, Rusty Jones, lifting, running, doing all the regimens. Not everybody does that. Most people go home. So the NFL at the time was paying us it was phenomenal. It was like $400 a week. So I'm like, this is great. I'm paying for my rent. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. And again, that's through the NFL. So stayed up there. So, and I got to people that were there. I got to know them and got to know the coaches. And so it was good. So we go to that first training camp. So the training camp for the Bills at the time was at Fredonia State University in Fredonia, New York. Couple hours west of Buffalo.
Okay.
So we go down there, and I'm having a great camp.
Right.
So doing good on special teams, and just any of us, people listening, in whatever profession you're in, whatever job you do, whatever it is, you know when you do something right. Like you get that feeling.
It's called that flow, whatever.
Yeah, when you hand a presentation and you're a boss and you're like, I kicked ass. I know I did. Like, you get that good feeling. It's like when you study for an exam and you're prepared, you go in there and you ace it and you come out and you're like, I killed it. So I was having a good camp. I mean, I felt good. I knew the place, and I was doing good. So my running back coach in 97 for the Bills was Elijah Pitts. So I know you're not a sports fan. So Elijah Pitts, I should know him. Great late Elijah Pitts, was a running back for the great Green Bay Packers teams. He played for Vince Lombardi.
Oh, wow, okay.
And
I know him.
Shared some stories with me about Vince Lombardi that I'll keep private, but I will say Vince Lombardi was every bit of a hard ass that you would think he was, right? I mean, they say the Vince Lombardi rule, right? If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah.
But I loved Elijah Pitts, and I think Elijah really liked me because listen, I'm there, I'm just getting paid. So now, okay, once you get into training camp, right, it's a set amount of money.
Okay,
your salary doesn't kick in until game one. So through training camp, which is NFL, it's like 5 weeks. Everybody gets the same. So. I forgot what it was, like $1,000 a week. So you're making the same money as someone that's about to make $2 million or whatever. So I'm
get that paycheck?
I'm making that money.
Too.
But Elijah, I think really respected me because hadn't made any money. I didn't get a bonus, and I showed up. I listened and just I worked hard. And I never forget. And I tell people this when we get into these conversations. The most meaningful thing anyone ever has said to me in my life about my football. And I've talked to a lot of people. I've had a lot of coaches, assistant coaches, broadcasting. I was walking off the practice field in Fredonia one day, and Elijah put his arm around me and walked with me. And he said, I don't know what happened to you, but he said, you should have been drafted.
Wow. And
so that meant more to me than anything. And it still does. It gives me goosebumps when I think about it.
How could it not? Yeah.
And so that just made me feel good. So again, I go on with camp, and I'm having a really good camp.
Yeah.
First preseason game, it's at Denver.
Okay.
Mile High Stadium. John Elway's their quarterback. And so I know I'm going to play third and fourth quarter, like they tell me.
Okay.
Now I'm in on special teams in the first half, but
right.
I know what I'm going to play.
You get to travel with the team and everything. I mean,
correct.
Like
so in 80 I think it's different now, especially with COVID. But back then,
the bubble,
they're allowed. NFL is allowed to have 85 players in camp, and then you cut it down, and eventually it's a 53-man roster. Okay, but it starts with 85. And that's where I talked about Marv Levy being great, because Marv Levy was the head coach in 97. He just didn't bring guys in for a day.
Right.
He kept you, if the NFL said, I can stay at 85, I don't have to get to 63 for 12 days, he kept you the 12 days.
Okay.
Which I thought
gives you enough of a chance you can try and prove yourself the whole time.
And put stuff on tape, even if it's practice tape or if you're in a preseason game for another organization.
Sure.
So the first preseason game, it's at Denver.
Okay.
And I end up I led the team in receiving. I caught like 4 or 5 passes for like 115 yards. Had another 3 or 4 carries for like 30 or 40 yards. So I had a really good game.
Yeah.
And so we're in the locker room. And again, you get done doing something. You're like, okay, I know I did a good job. And Dan Henning was the offensive coordinator that year. And I remember he came up to me in the locker room, just patted me on the head and said, good job, young man, which I knew was a lot coming from him. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm in a good position. And so I should also mention too that, so there's a 53-man roster.
Okay.
And then the NFL also at the time, you could have 5 developmental players, which is known as the practice squad.
Okay.
And it's kind of a misnomer. People think practice squad, you're just a practice player. It's not like that. You're on the roster. It's a way for NFL teams to keep an additional players.
Right.
And you get paid a little less, but we'll get into that.
Could you get called up though, like if there was an injury?
They would have to
like
cut
that?
someone off the 53-man roster.
Oh, okay.
And if another team wanted you off a practice squad, that's the only way they could take you. You're not going from practice squad to practice squad. They have to sign you to their active roster.
Okay. So if you're on one practice squad, you're staying there, basically.
Correct, unless someone signs you, which happens. I mean, it happens a lot more now.
Right.
But so I bring that up because my goal going to the camp was at least make the practice squad. Like I really felt good, like make the practice squad. And you're at the time you're allowed to stay on the practice squad for 2 years.
Okay.
I was like the model practice squad guy because I did everything right. I busted my ass. I helped out. Like if you could be a 10-year practice squad guy, that would have been me because I did what they told.
Right.
I love Thurman Thomas. We had a great relationship. If you're a running back coach, like if you tell a running back, a Hall of Famer like Thurman Thomas, hey, I want you to jab step 6 inches to the right and then go downhill on this play, he's gonna run. He's gonna do what makes him comfortable.
Right.
I always did what the coaches told me.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of funny, but I have some real funny.
I'll do whatever.
I have some real funny Thurman Thomas stories.
Right.
This podcast is going to go long, but it's worth it. So we're going to let it go long.
We're gonna,
because I have some good stories, funny stories that you'll laugh at. So anyway, so that first preseason game, good, and then we have a couple other ones, and they were decent. So I'm having a good camp. Then we get to the last preseason game of the year. And the big cut, second from last cut, but the biggest cut day was the Monday after this Sunday game. Okay. It was the American Bowl. We were playing the Green Bay Packers in Toronto. Okay. At the stadium in Toronto. Brett Favre was a quarterback for Green Bay. So we go up there, and I'm having a great camp. And long story short, the game's on NBC. It's a
televised. Cool.
Yeah, nationally televised. It's a noon game, and I'm not having a game. Like you talk about mental. It's just and it's more mental than anything.
Right.
And so what happened was, this is a great lesson for anyone that's out there, any of you running backs or players for that matter, how you have to flush stuff. You're going to screw up.
Right.
You have to forget about it and move on, or else you screw up again.
Yeah.
So I remember I was doing a little angle route over the middle, and Todd Collins threw me the pass, and it's typical. I turned my head to run before I secured the ball, and I dropped it. And it was third down. So I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was pissed. So third down, I ran off the field. Only problem was I wasn't supposed to run off the field. I was on the punt team. but I was so mad at dropping the pass and pissed off at myself that I ran off the field. And then when it dawned on me, I looked up and I'm like, oh, shit.
Right.
And I could see Bruce DeHaven, the special team coach, counting. And I'm like, in about 10 seconds, they're going to know it's me.
Yeah.
And I got my ass reamed, which I should have. And so the game ends. And, you know, my parents were at the game. My family's at the game. I see them in the locker room. I'm like, yeah, I'm cut tomorrow. I go, I screwed up. I'm cut. They're like, oh, you've had a great camp. I go, no, I'm cut. I was just, you know, I was just like, I'm cut.
Just because of that, though, really.
That's just the way, you know, you feel. So you go back, and so I show up, you know, Monday. And so how the cutting process works. So
let me guess, Pop was there?
Who the hell's Pop?
Pop, the guy from Montreal.
Oh, no, Jim Pop. No. This is how, like,
oh, shit,
this
it's
is
you
how
again?
This is how real cutting works.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make light
when
of the
you
cut.
cut down at the cut day. So there's usually a designated person for the organization. Like at Buffalo, my year was an athletic trainer, and they call him the Turk.
Okay,
he's the guy that comes and grabs you. So what happens is, so we're in Buffalo, we're at Ralph Wilson Stadium, but you haven't made the team yet. So at the end of training camp, you break from Fredonia and you go back to Buffalo. So everyone's in Buffalo. But guys that aren't on the team yet, you're in the visitor locker room.
Okay.
Unless you were like a first or second round pick, they were going to give you a locker. I think a third round pick, they gave you a locker too.
Okay.
But other than that, there's probably fourth and fifth rounders that were in with us. And so you're all sitting there in the visiting locker room on this cut day, and it's like 9 a.m. and meetings are starting. But you're not going to go to the meetings because you don't know if you're on the team or not.
Right.
And the Turk comes in, and you don't want to make eye contact with him, but it's like, but you got to look at him. And you're like looking, and he'd be like, hey, Brian, coach needs to talk to you. And you're like, oh, you take a deep breath because it's not you. But then you're like, poor Brian just got cut.
Yeah.
So this goes on because, you know, like I said, Buffalo, Marv Levy kept all the
everybody.
players. So, you know, he had to cut like 15 guys. And so I did good for about an hour.
Yeah, you did good.
And then,
see you later, sucker.
Then he comes in. He's like, you know, Rene, Marv wants to talk to you. So it's funny. So
what if you say no? Can you say no?
Yeah, right. And
I'm not going.
Like Kramer, I'm not leaving.
I don't want to talk to him.
Or is it George? I'm not leaving.
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get my helmet and I'm gonna go.
I never actually worked here.
I'm not you're breaking up. I'm breaking up with you. You're not breaking up with me.
He's like, Rene, Coach Marv needs to talk to you. So, and again, I had been up there in the springtime and winter and worked out, and everyone knew me. So, but Coach Levy never caught on to Rene. He called me Rene, and I didn't correct him. I was totally fine with it. And like even in meetings, he would call my name out sometimes, usually for good stuff, and he'd say Rene, and everyone would giggle. And it doesn't.
He just called you a girl's
name.
So
I go into the room, and he's in this little office room in the stadium, and the first thing he says to me is, "You're not getting cut because of the game yesterday."
Oh, well, thanks a lot. I don't know if that makes me feel better or
not.
not.
Well, it did. No,
okay.
I mean, it did, because I knew I had a good camp.
But
he just said, listen, the numbers are such where I can't keep you right now. But he said, there's a good chance, wink, wink, that in 5 days, when we're down to our 53 and we sign our 5 practice squad guys, that we're going to sign you to the developmental squad, to the practice squad. So go home, relax, and I can't guarantee you, but we're probably going to sign you. So I knew I had done enough. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get signed to the practice squad. So I was feeling pretty good.
Right.
So I go home, and so this was a Monday. I get home Monday night, and the Washington Redskins, through my agent, through Jack Mula, Commanders. Hopefully I don't.
Yeah, no, you can't say that.
I don't want to offend anyone. But that's what they were when I played there.
That's what they were when you were there.
Stuck in my head.
It's okay.
So let's just say
the team called Washington.
Washington. Yeah. So they call Monday night.
Okay.
And they say, hey, we want to fly you here tomorrow to work you out. Because a lot of teams look at who gets cut around the league.
Right.
And they kind of say, well, that guy I think would fit in our system, or, you know, I like that guy. So they basically say, we want to bring you in. You know, we're looking to sign a practice squad running back. We want to bring you in. So I'm thinking, okay, well, Buffalo knows what I did. Let me go down to Washington. So I go down there. And so, I mean, again, I'm kind of sore. Camp just over. You just get done playing. And again, the coveted, the workout. So I got to run a 40. I got to catch passes. I got to bench press, do some stuff. So fly down there on Tuesday, and they